Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm kicking off a new series on my channel all about how to dress well on a budget, and the first video in that series is today's video, which is all about how to get the Chanel look for less. As many of you will know, I am a huge Chanel fan, and even though I'm lucky enough to own a few of their bags, I am still a long way off being able to just walk into a Chanel store and buy any of their ready to wear pieces. They are very pricey, and generally speaking, trying to get the Chanel look can be a very pricey endeavor. So today I thought I would share some of my tips on how you can get the Chanel look for less. So I hope you guys enjoy this, and let's get going. So the good thing about Chanel is they have a very distinctive, iconic style that they just keep releasing over and over again. It's a big reason why Chanel classic flaps do so well on the resale market, because they really don't switch it up at all. They have their classic flap design and they will just keep re-releasing the same style, and it's why people continue to want them for 10, 20, 30 years. And the same goes for every other element of the Chanel style. You know, they have things which are really fundamental and core to the overall aesthetic, and that is tweed, it's pearls, two-tone shoes, that sort of thing. So if you are trying to get the Chanel look, it's pretty easy to do because their pieces are so distinctive and iconic. So for shoes, I have this pair of two-tone pumps, and these are obviously very Chanel inspired. Chanel have a whole variety of shoes based on this two-tone style. So they do ballet flats, they do slingbacks, they do full-on heels. They often will draw upon the two-tone in a whole variety of colors as well, but this one is most classic, I think, the beige and the black, and they usually run between about £500 to £700, so they are very pricey. I found these, and these are a lot cheaper. So these are $150 or around £130, so considerably cheaper than the Chanel ones, and you really do get the look, I think. It's all beige leather around here, and then with a little black tip and the little sling back with a bit of a heel as well. Very comfortable, very cute, and really good for pairing with anything from jeans to skirts and dresses. A really go anywhere shoe. This is a very common style though, so even if you didn't like these particular ones, you can definitely find a similar kind of look. I know I got some from Zara a little while ago, and they are very similar again. They have a block heel, so it's not a sling back, but again, it's a very similar look, and lots of brands do these kind of two-tone styles. I've seen them with Kate Spade, lots of different brands, so definitely not specific to Chanel, but certainly it does have that Chanel look, and for me, these just absolutely remind me of Chanel shoes. So big fan of these. I thought they were a great buy, and I love mine to bits. My next tip for getting the Chanel look for less is via a boucle jacket. These are again very iconic to Chanel. Chanel, again, by no means the only brand that does these, but I feel like Chanel are really known for them. They release jackets every single season, every single year, in a variety of tweed variations and colours, and varying the style a little bit, but it's still obviously very iconically Chanel. So fortunately there are a lot of stores that do these, and I found two in particular which I thought were absolutely gorgeous. So this is by the brand IRO, which is a French company. These are by no means super cheap, you know, it's still quite an expensive brand, but it's still much cheaper than the multiple thousands you will pay for a Chanel jacket. And this jacket actually inspired this video because I found it, loved it, and I thought, why not do a whole video around this kind of style. So it's very, very simple. It's slimmer on the sleeves, and then it has a little bit of padding around the shoulder, and then it's just very easy to throw on and go. If you want to up the ante a little bit and make it even more Chanel inspired, then you can use a Chanel brooch or something like that and just pin it on, but with or without the brooch, I think this is gorgeous. I also have a cream one right here. The reason why I have two is because I'm still trying to decide which one to keep, so if you have an opinion about which one is nicer, please let me know, because I've been dithering and I cannot decide which one to go for. These do cost £265, so again, by no means super cheap, but definitely a lot cheaper than a Chanel jacket, and they are really, really lovely quality. You can also get 10% off for, I think, 5 days by Net-a-Porter, so I'll leave that code down below if you do want to check these out, or anything else by Net-a-Porter. But I thought these were absolutely beautiful and a really nice way of getting a Chanel inspired look, but without being, you know, overtly Chanel or indeed spending thousands on a blazer. If you want to take it even further though, then Zara is a great place to get very Chanel inspired pieces. They started doing this, I think, a couple of years ago, and now it seems every single season they will bring out new pieces which are very directly Chanel inspired. So the one I have here today, and this is part of the new collection, so you can actually get this now, is this very Chanel inspired jacket. It is a tweed jacket in cream with a little silver trim and these little buttons as well, which are tiny little pearls, so very Chanel, I think you'll agree. This one was only £80, so a lot cheaper than the IRO, and certainly a lot cheaper than Chanel in general. very cute, but again, this really is only if you want to go really full on with the Chanel look, but it's a very nice option if you do. I'm also going to have a blog post with lots of different Chanel inspired pieces, so if you do want to check that out, then I will link that below as well. Following on from Chanel inspired jackets are Chanel inspired skirts. This is another really iconic clothing piece from Chanel, and again, this is very easy to find on the high street. So I have one from a couple of seasons ago from Zara, which I absolutely love. It does have that tweed kind of look, and I just think this is very cute, very Chanel inspired, but without being too over the top, I think, and just absolutely adorable. I do have one of their new season ones right here as well. So this actually matches the jacket, so you could go full on twin set if you wanted to. I prefer to keep them as separates, but this one has little pockets here, the pearl detailing. It's looking very white on camera, but actually it's more of cream with silver detailing. So very cute, very inexpensive. This is £30, so quite a bit cheaper than Chanel ready to wear. And I just like to pair mine with over the knee boots and a simple sweater. Very cute, very modern, but still has that Chanel element to it. If you do want to dip your toes in the Chanel water and actually buy something from Chanel, but you aren't ready to splurge on a bag or a clothing piece or anything like that, then I really think that a brooch is a good place to start. I often think these are very underrated, but I absolutely love mine. I've had mine for a few years now. I wear it all the time, and it's such an easy way to dress up any outfit. I think you can pop this on a sweater or a blouse, a jacket, coat, scarf, really anything, and it instantly adds that Chanel element and ups the wow factor, I think. So it's only a small piece, but I do think it delivers a lot of bang for your buck. They do come around the £300 mark. You can find some that are a bit cheaper, and you can find some that are much more expensive, but usually you can find some for about £300, and they are absolutely beautiful. Again, by no means super cheap, but if you do want something from Chanel, then this is a really good place to start, I think. Really pretty, very iconic, and an easy way to dress up any outfit. If you don't want to spend £300 on a brooch, which is extremely reasonable because £300 on a brooch is still a lot of money, then you can still get that same kind of effect, just not logo based. Chanel brooches actually aren't all logos. The vast majority of them are other designs, often camellia based or something like that. So only a small portion of them are actually logo ones, but these are the most famous because of the CCs. But if you did just want to get a cheaper brooch, maybe even a flower pin or something like that, and add it to a jacket, you can still get that Chanel inspired look, but without being so overt. My next tip is actually to look at Karl Lagerfeld's own line. So Karl Lagerfeld is the designer of Chanel, and he has his own line called Karl Lagerfeld, and it's completely separate to Chanel, but he has clearly drawn on his Chanel designer experience to produce his own line. It's very similar in a lot of ways. Not every way, some of the pieces are a little bit wacky and out there, so I definitely don't like everything, but you can find some real gems. One thing that I got from his line is this coat, which if you follow me on Instagram, you'll probably recognize it because I've worn this a ton. Ever since I got it, I absolutely love it. It's very well made, the quality is extremely high, it's well tailored, and it's just absolutely beautiful. Even though I've worn it loads, it still looks good as new. I really love this. I always get asked about it as well. I don't think this particular one is still available, and this isn't even particularly Chanel inspired, but it was just an example of how good quality his line is. It's still not very cheap. It's definitely cheaper than Chanel, but I would say it's more in the kind of mid luxury range. But you can find a lot of pieces which seem to have been drawn directly from Chanel. So a lot of tweed jackets, a lot of tweed skirts, a lot of very Chanel inspired pieces. So if you are a fan, definitely worth checking out. Again, not super cheap, but certainly cheaper than Chanel ready to wear. If you are keen on buying something from Chanel, but you're not keen on a brooch and you want something leather, then SLGs are a good place to start. SLGs meaning small leather goods. So I have 3 here in a variety of colors and materials. So this one is in the navy with caviar leather. It's just a little card holder with an ID slot right there. This one is in calfskin in the pale pink, and it's just a little card holder pouch style with a card slot right there. And then I have another one in the same kind of style in the turquoise lambskin, and this one actually has things in it at the moment. And I think a lot of people automatically think whenever it comes to Chanel, you're thinking thousands. SLGs are actually on the lower end, so they're more around the brooch price range. So generally speaking, you'll be able to find these for about £300, sometimes a bit less, sometimes a bit more, but Usually they are around that kind of area, and these are around the same kind of prices as Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton handbags in general tend to be a lot cheaper than Chanel, and so I think people often think that Chanel SLGs are going to be a lot more expensive when actually they're the same price around about as Louis Vuitton. So these represent fairly good value for money in Chanel world. Obviously £300 is still a lot of money to spend on something like this, but they're definitely not in the thousands. So if you do want something leather, then this is a really nice way to go. I think you can always experiment with colours as well, and they're just a really nice little element of Chanel without totally breaking the bank. If you do really want a bag and you're happy with a clutch but you don't want to spend thousands, because even Chanel clutches can cost around £2,000 to £3,000, then have a look at their wallets as well. They have longer, really thin bifold wallets which cost more about the £600 mark, but they're big enough that you can use them as a clutch if you want to. So that's a really good tip if you want that Chanel clutch look but you don't want to spend thousands. My next tip is to add pearls. This is another really famous Chanel design feature. They are always adding pearls to their clothing and accessories, and I usually love the result because I'm such a huge fan of pearls myself. You can buy Chanel pearl necklaces, but they are very expensive, usually in the multiple thousands, again because of course it's Chanel. So I don't have a Chanel pearl necklace unfortunately, but I do have this which I think is equally as lovely. This was gifted to me from my grandma, and it's a really great way of getting the look for a whole lot less. My tip for it not looking too stuffy is to go for the longer length. So anything too short can look a little bit old-fashioned. So if you go for something a little bit longer and even layer multiple strands, it will help keep the look a lot more fresh, especially if you team it with something a bit more modern. So maybe stay away from the twin sets and go more towards, you know, a t-shirt and jeans, and just add layers of pearls on top. Very cute, very Chanel appropriate, but without breaking the bank. My next tip is for those of you who do want to buy a Chanel bag and you are at that kind of pricing level, but you still want to save a bit of money. So my biggest tip here is to look pre-loved. Chanel is the most popular brand to buy and sell on the pre-loved market. One, it's very popular, and also it really retains its resale value very well. It is, however, possible to get bargains. You do have to be vigilant and you do have to be patient and look a lot, but it is possible. I have here my very first Chanel bag that I bought. I actually bought this on eBay many years ago. I had wanted the classic quartered flap, but unfortunately I couldn't afford it, so I settled on this instead, and honestly I was so happy with this bag. I absolutely loved it. I still love it today. It did me very well, and I literally wore it every single day for many years. It was my most treasured clothing possession. Absolutely beautiful, and even though it isn't the quartered flap, it does still achieve that same kind of look. So this is actually called the Mademoiselle line bag, so it does have the kind of stripes rather than quilting, but you do still have the Chanel logo, and it does still have that very classic Chanel look, I think, for a lot less. So I believe this was £800 to £900, so definitely not cheap, but it was a lot cheaper than the quilted versions. Keep in mind this was a few years ago, but still I managed to get a bargain for it, and I love this bag so much. So if you do want to go for a Chanel bag on the pre-loved market, then definitely look at seasonal bags rather than their classic lines. They don't hold value quite as well, but for that reason you can get more of a bargain. You may also want to look at bags which are a little bit more beaten up, and have a look at spa renovation services. There are many companies out there who will renovate bags, the leather, the colour, all kinds of things. Make sure that you send in pictures before buying, but often these companies can do wonders. So if you do buy something that's a bit cheaper in not quite perfect condition, it can be a great way to get a deal and restoring it back to its former glory. My final tip is to shop strategically. Now this will depend on exactly where you're based, but if you live in the US, for example, and are traveling to Europe, then Chanel is a lot cheaper to buy in Europe than it is in the US. If, however, you live in the UK or are just travelling out of the UK, then try and fly out of Heathrow, because they do have duty-free shops there. So you can save between 16 and 19%, which is quite a substantial amount for a brand that, while they do have sales, they don't include their bags in their sales. So you can buy bags with that discount. They unfortunately don't include classic flaps, they do include everything else. So you can get Chanel minis, you can get boy bags, you can get any of their seasonal line bags, as well as shoes and clothing and jewelry and everything else. So it's definitely a good one to check out. If you are flying out of a terminal that doesn't have a Chanel boutique, you can also use their personal shopper service, and they can escort you to that Chanel store in between terminals. So really great, it's completely free to use. I've used it a few times, and it is a really, really great way of getting Chanel but at a discount. So that is it for this video, guys. I hope that you enjoyed it and you like the idea of this series. If you have any questions for me, then leave them down below, but I will try and include links and all other information in the description section. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.